All right, so the first card, I'm going to show you right now, is the Totem of the Snakes. I mean, the Totem of the Stones. The name of the card is the Snakes, the Crawlers. Okay, this card I like a lot. And the reason I like this card a lot is something I've been telling y'all for days now. But the reason I like this card a lot is because it forces you to focus your attention. There's so much big, there's so much overwhelming, there's so much information. It's just all coming like an avalanche, you feel me? And it makes it sometimes very difficult to focus on the seemingly small, right? And also this card coming up today is really interesting because I think it was last night, maybe. So last night? I think it was last night, maybe, or maybe another night where I was talking. Yeah, it was last night because I was telling you I was working on another wormhole about the relationship between so-called the reptilian brain and the reptilian people. You know, the reptilian brain, scientifically, the so-called reptilian people conspiracy theory, and where these originated from, these ideas of the reptilian mind and reptilian, you know, freaking what you call them, people taking over the planet and shit, you feel me? And how this is further distractionary language from the fact that all serpentine energy leads back to our very ancient memory of the mother, right? So it's interesting that the first card I pulled today is the Snakes, the Crawlers. This card is about blotting out the noise so that you can be mindful of the supremacy of the small. So that you can be so that you can be reminded of the supremacy of the small. Whoa. Uh-oh. We pay attention to, we are fearful of, we are distracted by the big. We are fearful of, we are distracted by, all the time, the big noise, the big bad, the big war, the big government, all of the big brother, all of that shit is always trying to take up space. This card, the Totem of the Stones, the Snake, the Crawlers, is always attempting to remind you of the supremacy of the small. Oh, so let me just tell you before I finish talking to y'all about the card. I have the book somewhere here amidst all these books that I got. I may have to revisit it. I haven't thought about it in years, but it's a book that I read, you know, when I was a hardcore revolutionary activist. The name of the book is called The War of the Flea. The War of the Flea. Okay. This book was written to talk about, to demonstrate how even though you may feel small and seem small, powerless and shit like that, that if enough of you get together, the flea, that if enough of you get together, you feel me, you can completely subdue a dog, you know, an animal, 20,000 times your size. If enough of you can get together, you can subdue a dog. They call this the War of the Flea. As a matter of fact, in response, it was a book that was written about the effectiveness of guerrilla warfare, right? How people with less firepower, less education, less know-how could take on an imperial power and defeat an imperial power. It was through guerrilla warfare. You have a supreme knowledge over the terrain. They were really talking about, you know, victories in warfare like Vietnam. How was it that these people who were just rice farmers was able to give the French and the United States the kind of hard time that they gave them without weapons, without superior firepower, without an education, They called this the War of the Flea. And in response to the fact that the United States and other imperial powers was getting their asses handed to them all over what they called the colonial world. Europe and in the north was up here. The nations of the north, first world nations, was up here, and the nations of the so-called third world, what do they call it? The global south was handing Europe and North America they ass left and right. This is around 40s, 50s, and 60s. Everywhere they was trying to go. As a matter of fact, I forget what president said. There was a president, a U.S. president, said that America will never again be able to fight and win a ground war because of guerrilla warfare. How efficient and effective guerrilla warfare was. So, what the American military did was write a counter to this book called "The War of the Flea." And it was a military manual called "Winning the War of the Flea." Winning the War of the Flea. But essentially, the War of the Flea was about guerrilla warfare. It was about how people who didn't have access, who didn't have, firepower, who didn't even have military training, who didn't have anything, who had just, hoes and sticks and shit like that, could still overpower a far more well-organized and well-armed enemy if they had the will and they had the knowledge of their own terrain, that there wasn't nothing they couldn't do, right? This card has that energy. This card, the snakes, the crawlers, is about reminding you, if you can be still enough, if you can be present enough, that power, that magic is in the seemingly small details. Those things that would be easy for us to ignore or pass over. Being present enough to pay attention to the seemingly small, right? The snakes, the crawlers, is about the supremacy of the small, right? So according to the card and even the energy of the stones, it is about, as a matter of fact, the lesson of the card, I'm just going to read you a little portion, a quote from it. You are a keeper of the planet. Study the creatures that crawl the earth, turning dirt into soil, composting waste. The smallest life forms, the tiniest crawlers, are necessary to break down the larger forms that are no longer needed. Disintegration, death, and transformation are a part of the great cycle. The snake has always been the symbol of eternal energy and transformation. Healing comes by destruction. Baby, let me tell you about today. God damn it. God damn it. God damn it. Oh my God. Yo. Let me tell you about today. Being present so that you recognize in an instant where something seemingly small becomes huge and impactful. In preparing, and I didn't prepare for this live. All I did was pull the cards earlier after I did a reading, because the reading I did for this woman was so fucking out of sight. I was like, let me go ahead and pull for the temple right now. Even if I can't do it tonight, let me go ahead and pull for the temple right now. Maybe I'll give it to him tomorrow. You feel me? So I wasn't even preparing for this live. I literally posted the live 5 minutes before I got the fuck up on here. But let me tell you what had happened. Earlier today, I'm always telling y'all, I paid for the most expensive StreamYard, but all my space has run out because I cannot keep up with my editing at the speed that I'm posting. But I don't want to delete anything before I can get some edits off of it. So I'm constantly looking through old videos, trying to figure out what I absolutely can get rid of so that I can make more space to keep doing and storing lives. So the one that I was watching today, I was like, okay, I'm listening to it while I'm doing other things. I'm like, okay, let me just see if I can find something to extract like a clip from before I delete the live. The live, the one that I was listening to today, so now you're going to have to go back and listen to it, was entitled Temple Service 5/27/24. Now y'all going to have to go watch it. 5/27/24. Temple service, 5/27/24. That was the one I was listening to right before I got up on here for like an hour, trying to find clips in it that I could extract, copy before I deleted the stream to free up some space so I could do this live tonight. In this live that I chose to listen to, among the over 100 that are still up in my shit, still up in my storage, this one talked about, as a matter of fact, I just posted it before I came up on here, a clip, and I entitled it, The Courage to Step into the Dark. That's what I called it. The Courage to Step into the Dark. That's what I called it. And in it, I talked, that this was what, that was May. Okay. I'm just looking through videos, trying to figure out which one I can get rid of so I can do this. But let me just tell you about this deck. Let me tell you about energy. Let me tell you about being present so that you can see the miracle in the seemingly small. So I did the clip. I called the clip The Courage to Step into the Dark. And this whole live was about reimagining everything, not having a renaissance, not trying to revisit old ways and kind of pimp them or whatever, really having the confidence to imagine something radically fucking new, right? And that requires us to get comfortable with all of those things we've never been comfortable with. Those things being, we ain't never been comfortable with the word destruction. We ain't never been comfortable with the word dark. We ain't never been comfortable with the word decay. We ain't never been comfortable with the word you feel me? We ain't never been comfortable with that, because we cannot see that those words that have always been given to us and given to us in a way that are scary and terrifying. We've never been able to see them as necessary and good, depending upon where you are in the world and what your particular worldview is. And so I'm saying, we have to not only step into the dark, but we have to have the courage and the confidence to gleefully step into the dark, to blissfully embrace destruction. Okay? To blissfully embrace destruction. And here, this first card I done pulled on this motherfucking day say, baby, disintegration, death, and transformation are a part of the cycle of life. The snake has always been a symbol of eternal energy and transformation. Healing comes by destruction and rebirth. Healing comes by destruction and rebirth. Y'all feel me? That's what this first card I just pulled after sitting here, not knowing, just saying, okay, what can I get rid of? Okay, well, cool. Let me post this little clip. In this first card I pulled, the old skin is shed and the new one is ready. Life continues. Learn from the creatures who live in Earth's body. They are humble and great. Yes, they are humble and great. The snakes, the crawlers. You understand me? I told y'all a story not too long ago about why I began doing ritual offerings to Hecate, right? The triple goddess in Nordic culture. Yes, she's Nordic. And no, I'm not Nordic that I know of. You feel me? Like, my last name is Welsh, but in terms of any kind of like European lineage to the Nordic region, I don't think there is any. But when I read her story, it immediately resonated with me. And I said, okay, they call her the queen of refuge, that you make offerings to her of that which you intend to throw away, food scraps, shit like that. So her animals can feast. So her babies can feast, right? She is the governess of the crawlers, those things that lay in the belly of the earth that we approach with a level of revile, those things that are responsible, just like this card said, for breaking down the macro of which there is no longer any use and transforming it into something that gives birth to the new. Maggots, flies, you understand, vultures, you understand, worms, earthworms. That's her domain. And when you feed them, you make big offerings. So I was like, cool, I'm not going to throw away my food scraps no more. I'm going to keep my food scraps in a bag. And once every week, I'm going to go out to some crossroads somewhere and feed Hecate's babies. That's what I'm going to do. You feel me? But I was telling you, I really resonated with her story in every way. I was like, yes, Hecate, come on in the room. Come on in the room. You feel me? I love this card every time it falls because, again, we can get caught up, baby, and subdued. We can get caught up and subdued of the magnitude of what we think is our task. Changing the world, and we think, damn, it's so big. Saving the world, and we think, damn, it's so much. It's so big. How can we do it? You know what I'm saying? And this card is the reminder of the war of the flea, baby. That it is not the singular you. It is the unity of will that allows the flea, as small as it is, to subdue the dog. You understand? Yes. Yes. It is the unity of will. It's not a singular flea that can bring down the dog. It is the unity of will. It is the collective of fleas united in a singular purpose to subdue the dog. This is the reminder of the supremacy of the small. This card. Child, I can stop the reading right there. That's a word. That's a word for the whole. That's a whole ass word. Do not despair. Do not be subdued by the seeming bigness of this bitch. You understand? Capitalism, patriarchy, imperialism, whatever. Do not be distracted by the appearance of bigness of this bitch. You understand? It is the crawlers. It is those that we call the lowest of the mother's creatures that are both the humble and the great, able to transform, no matter how massive, transform the macro back into the macro for it to be useful again to the group. That's what it does. That's a word for your ass.